So this is the amp cranked with no attenuation. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Ding! Can we turn the attenuator on, please? Jesus Christ.
So this is why you need an attenuator.
I think the key question is, when you turn it up more and more, like attenuate more, does it kill your tone?
Well, that's one of the main things we're going to talk about in a minute, but let's get into that.
I was just getting that juicy one out there.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about the controversial subject of attenuators.
Now, even though they might be controversial, this piece of gear right here has genuinely changed my studio and live life. So today we're going to talk about why you need one of these, or if you need one of these. You might not, but I think you do. So let's get into it.
So I've used an attenuator in the past, not this make, but this today is primarily featuring THD attenuators because Chris has literally got every one that's ever been made. So tell us a bit about why you think that they're really important for people to understand why and when you'd use one.
Well, I would not want to use an amp without one of these now, because in any situation, whether it's a live situation, studio, wherever you might be, I feel like this is just part of the amp now. You know, the beauty of a tube amp is that you can crank it to 10, but your neighbours don't like that, and your mum doesn't like it. No one really likes it, apart from you.
Us,
yeah, apart from you. So this, device basically sits on the amp. It allows you to crank the amp still, but this cleverly, is that a word?
Cleverly.
Yes, yes.
Cleverly.
But this cleverly
That's it.
Brings down the speaker volume in your amp so that you're only hearing whatever setting you have it on. So
yeah, so the key thing is you can really push your amp hard to get those valves breaking up. And like everyone says, there's no point having a valve amp unless you're giving it a kick in and you get that real tube saturation going. And these basically stop your ears bleeding and everyone else is bleeding. And it soaks up some of the energy so the speaker's not pumping as hard. Some people would say then the speaker's not running as efficient and pumping out how you'd want, but it's more if you wanted to get into that speaker breakup territory, then, don't worry about one of these because you just want to pop your ears. But yeah, that's mainly...
Well, that ties into, there's 2 or 3 controversial points around attenuators, and you touched on one of them, which is, well, they don't sound good because you're not getting the speaker cooking. Oh yeah. So, and you need the speaker to move air to actually get the tone. But that's one debate, which...
Yeah, well, it's a good debate though, isn't it? Because we've looked into speakers and that actually makes me start thinking, when you're attenuating and having your amp cranked, but you're pushing less out to the speaker, should you use a lower rated speaker so that it's working harder, more where it's designed to work best at? And then if you're not using attenuate and cooking your amp, then you want like an EV or something which can take an absolute pounding. So it's kind of, I've never thought of it like that.
That's a good,
you just use it on your standard one just to stop your ears bleeding, didn't you? So
that's a good point actually, yeah.
Well, thanks.
Well, and one of the other things that, again, there's a lot of misinformation out there on forums and the internet in general, but...
It's all truth, what do you mean?
That's right, but one of the main ones I've seen, and I can personally vouch for and dispel, is the fact that these ruin your amps. Like if you go onto any forums, they always say, oh, the hot plate is going to, ruin your amp. And there's so much misinformation about that. Like it doesn't do any damage at all. The only thing it does do is, of course, you're able to then crank your amp to 10. So you're getting the tubes and the actual amp working harder than you would have if you was just not cranking it. But that's just a byproduct of having that amp louder. It's nothing to do with the hot plate. It's just to do with the fact that you're cranking the amp.
Yeah, people seem to think because of the way it puts an effective dummy load on it that it's causing some negativity to the amp, but it doesn't. It just soaks up that excess of energy to stop the speakers moving as hard. Well, that's how I've always understood it. Might be totally wrong. But...
let's give a quick demo to actually show how you can use this in what it actually does.
Yeah, definitely, because I think proof's in the pudding, isn't it? And obviously there's lots of different makes of attenuators. Lots of the big boys make attenuators. This video is sponsored by THD, isn't it? So that's why we're going to feature these ones. And in fairness, Chris has only ever really used THDs anyway. I've used other ones. We've got the other ones out the back here, but this video is all about the THDs because they do a phenomenal job. Really cool. But get whatever one you want for your price range, what you want to do. There's different ohmages, so you need to buy a THD for the ohmage you want. So do your research in that. But these are phenomenal bits of kit, and you're going to show us.
Let's start off with the 0 decibel setting, because that's essentially having the amp unaffected. That's how your amp would sound normally.
So this is the amp cranked with no attenuation. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Ding! Can we turn the attenuator on, please? Jesus Christ.
So this is why you need an attenuator. By the way, so you over camera, over the internet, you might not get how loud that is because, well, it might actually distort the mics. I don't know. I've tried to back the gain down on the mics enough so that it doesn't clip, but it's so loud in the room that it's going to kill your ears. So
it's a good question actually. When you do videos, is an attenuator always on?
Yeah.
See, that's why I jumped through my teeth because he's turned it off and I didn't realise, which is why I did. Jesus.
Paul eject into the next floor. So you wouldn't want to use this. You might want to get to this kind of volume at a gig volume if you're lucky enough. But even at gigs, you can barely play a deluxe reverb at this volume. So let's back it down to.
So do you want me to go through the levels as you play?
Yeah.
Oh Christ! Here we go. One more to go.
Oh.
That does bring it down nicely, and there's still some hell of a good tone going on.
So right now we're talking over the volume of the guitar.
What's the load one mean?
Load is where you want a dummy load.
Oh, okay, yep.
So yeah, right now, we can talk over that, and it's a nice guitar volume.
Yeah.
It's not. So therefore, if you're trying to record in a bedroom, that's. And with the hot plate, you can actually take it one step further and use this fine tuning control here. Get it almost like whispering. So it's like you've got the amp on, cranked.
When you attenuated all the way down, it sounded great. As soon as you backed off that extra dial, then I was like, ooh. So do you just literally crank it to the volume that you need it to be, or do you have a preferred setting?
So the way I approach it is I set the amp however I want it for the tone, and therefore I can leave it as it is. I've got the tone, then I can essentially just whack it up or down depending if I'm on a session, a studio session, or a live gig. Because there's times where the soundman might be like, oh, can you just back off the volume? And if you've got to then start altering the volume on your...
You're like, God no,
yes.
You suck.
But if you've got to adjust the volume on your tube amp, you're going to change the tone as well.
Yep.
So you don't want that. You want to literally get the decibel rating down, which you can do with the hot plate.
Don't mess with a man's amp settings. That's the key.
What? So is that your warning to sound men?
Yeah. Don't mess with my amp settings. Yeah, so it's got some switches on there for bright and dark. Is it dark?
Deep.
Deep. Apparently I'd need some new glasses because my ears popped. So yeah, what's the switches do, young Christopher?
It ties into the debate that you brought up before about
The mass debate.
The what?
The mass debate.
There's a thing called the Fletcher-Munson effect. and it's a bit of a bizarre thing, but it's the perceived difference of volume when the sound's different. So you might be hearing it differently just because it's a different volume. Can you hear a difference between -16 to 0 dB?
No, I think any difference would be that whatever long name thing you just came up with out of thin blue air. I don't know, some attenuators are known, or that's the downside of a lot of people say, is they lose the tone. But I'd like to hear the recording actually, but I didn't feel like but go the other way, play at the low volume. So this is not doing anything on that one, right?
That's right, yeah.
So if I go back up, then we can... Do you know, I like it in the middle best because we're running through the EVs, right?
Yeah.
That combination on this, like I was saying about the speakers, I can hear, it's like that mid-hump you were getting, like that neck pickup-y kind of.
Yeah.
I can hear it better on that setting.
Yes.
The lower it goes, I seem to lose it a bit. I think probably because the speakers are so efficient, they're not really getting the drive to make them work properly, because the EVs need some power to get them cooking.
But there is actually something to be said for the mid being introduced as you roll back on an attenuator. That's actually part of what people say they can hear.
Right. But I was getting more on the 8. I was hearing more of it.
Yeah.
So when we went higher, I was losing a bit.
Also,
when we went lower, I was losing it. But that 8 seemed to be. I really liked that. I was digging that. Maybe but also my ears weren't bleeding. But
also, what I'd say is, I think in the room, that's actually the ideal volume. Because any lower, it's a bit like, oh, what's that? But higher, it's like, oh god. So, but there is also so the bright and the deep switch, they're supposed to be there to compensate for the lack of treble and bass that you would lose by attenuating.
Oh, okay.
So we could switch them off, and you'll hear what it would be like without any kind of.
So they're both on at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's magic trickery happening, is there?
Well, so some attenuators don't have that.
Yeah. So we should have started without them on, really, but because you're adding.
Well, I don't know.
Flavour.
Well, no, it's compensating to maybe get it back to the baseline flavour. Baseline flavour. That's it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So really taking them off is actually taking away, whereas having them on is getting you back to where you should be.
Right. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So.
I think I get what you mean, but I can't explain it.
So that's the tone loss that we're talking about, but the hot plate adds it back in for its magickery.
With those switched on, it sounded great. But when they turned off, so they work a treat. I don't know if they're adding something or if they're removing something to counteract the loss of a different frequency.
Well, that's something to note actually, because this is a passive unit.
Yeah.
There's no power going to it. It literally only takes away.
It must be just reducing.
Should we? I tell you what will be a good test. If we do a 0 decibel test, and then a -16 decibel test, and then in post-production, I'll whack up the actual volume of the -16.
Yeah.
That way you get a true test. Are you hearing a tone difference?
Yep.
So you guys at home can actually say, are you hearing a difference? And I think that's a true test that you can. So it's hard. I think there's a lot going on in the room. It's hard to tell if that makes a huge difference or not in terms of the actual tone that's recorded. But you guys will know when listening back to this, because I'm going to whack up the minus 16 overall volume in post-production, and you should hear them the same volume. So is there a tone loss?
We just don't know, do we?
We actually don't know until we edit it. So,
but you're right though. In here, you perceive a tone loss because the volume's come down, and you're not getting that. The room's not filling with as much sound waves. Yeah, but in the overall thing is, with an attenuator, you can crank your amp, you can knock the volume right down, and still get a lovely sound. And if you do feel like you're perceiving a tone difference, bung like a clon style pedal or something, just to give you that little, what people call that little warmth boost to it, that little uplift, and you'll be back into, you know, lovely Toneville. But I must admit, I was of the school of thought the more you attenuate, the worse the sound gets. But that might be because I was in the past using one that comes down too far and strips it out. But whether the bright and deep switch make that much a difference, that was, I think I might have to go and buy one of those, but before this video goes out, before they go,
yeah.
Price.
And also, I do think, well, we'll know by listening back to it, but I do think a lot of it is that effect I was talking about before, where like it's the perceived, your ears are saying because it's lower volume that there's no bass or whatever it might be, but listening back to it in post-production, once they're actually the same volume, I don't think there's going to be a lot of difference from what I've tested in the past, just recording in general. And even if there is a slight difference, I'd say it's worth it for the massive benefit you get of actually getting on with your sound, man. Not getting kicked out of your apartment, getting the tone you want at all times. I think like you can't really go wrong with it.
Well, the key thing is you've got your amp cranked. We're hearing a minuscule difference, if anything. And like you say, I think when you listen to it back, there won't be hardly anything at all. If you turned your amp down, tone's gone.
Yeah.
All day long. You're not getting the valve breakup. Your amp's not pushing. It's just going to sound dull, and you probably won't be getting much gain coming out of it at all because it's running too low. So remember, that's the point. You're pushing your amp. It's allowing you to push the amp really hard and get that thing to start with, that sound to start with, and then you're playing about with it. But if the amp's not cooking in the first place, might as well go home. Well, get a smaller amp that's doing other stuff. So, and
that's a great thing. We've not actually spoke about the amp too much today, but we just said it how we like it and then forgot about it. So that's the great thing. We didn't have to then actually alter it once, actually, did we?
No.
Which is amazing, really.
Yeah. So the other good thing is you can leave your amp exactly how it is, because no one likes someone playing about with the dials on the pedal board or whatever.
Yeah.
And and then you've literally just got a big fat dial, easy peasy. Job's a good one. Lovely.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I think a good test now would be, I'm going to do a jam with Tom, our drummer, and I'm going to have it on like the minus 12 decibel setting. So it's not, you know, the maximum attenuation, but I'm going to do that while he plays drums full pelt. He won't really be able to hear what I'm doing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, but it will show you that it doesn't really matter anyway, because listening back to it, we're going to whack up the volume to compensate, and then yeah, it's a good real life test.
I mean, that is the key thing, isn't it? That if you are doing a live gig and they say, you know, sorry, this is too loud, get out, or sort it out, you don't want to be fanning about with your amp and losing that tone that you spent God knows how long getting. The attenuate lets you just, you know, you get there straight away, don't you? So happy sound man, and then when he's walked off, turn it back up.
Yeah, that's the classic. Everyone knows that's the thing. Even the sound man knows it. He must be like, "Why am I doing my job?" Because he knows the guitarist is gonna.
Yeah, you have like a different dot, don't you? So it looks like it's attenuated, but it's not.
Just adjust it and put it. Yeah. Well, a huge thanks to THD for they've sponsored the video. It's not like they've paid us or anything, but they have given us one of these for free. I mean, it's a small thing. We've bought about 50 of them, so I feel like
thanks.
Yeah. But we've got about five in here.
Well, you had 5, now he's got 4.
But yeah, we've not been sent all of them. It's just, I actually have genuinely loved them over the years, and
you've always like tried to sell me some over the time and say use it. And those switches are a bit eye-opening for me. They made quite a difference. It'd be, I liked that.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Let us know in the comments if you can hear a difference. Do you use one? And
see you later.
Oh, that's you stole my bit.
I know. Sorry, you got to finish the video now.
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Yeah, we'll catch you in a bit, and cheers.